Imagine you're in a game, but no one tells you the rules. The players keep changing, the goalposts keep moving. Just when you think you're ahead, the game shifts entirely. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's the reality of life, business, and leadership. Most people play with a finite mindset, obsessed with short-term wins, quarterly profits, and immediate validation. But those who truly thrive understand something deeper. The game never ends. Today, we're going to explore the infinite mindset, what it means, why it matters, and how it can help you not just survive, but thrive in a world that never stops changing. Every game we play in life has a structure. Rules, players, a scoreboard, and an outcome. In some games, like football or chess, the objective is clear: to win. The rules are fixed, the players are known, and there's always a final whistle that signals the end. These are finite games. They have a defined beginning, middle, and end, and the goal is to outperform the competition within those boundaries. Now imagine a different kind of game. A game where the players come and go, where the rules evolve, and where there is no clear endpoint. In this game, there is no final score, no championship trophy, no finish line to cross. The goal is not to win, but to keep playing, to grow, and to sustain the journey for as long as possible. This is an infinite game. In business, leadership, and even life itself, most people approach challenges with a finite mindset. They chase quarterly targets, seek immediate recognition, and measure success in short-term gains. Their focus is on beating the competition, maximizing profits, and securing personal victories. Their thinking is transactional. What can I get? How fast can I get it? And how do I ensure I don't lose? But the problem with a finite mindset is that it's inherently fragile. When success is defined by short-term wins, pressure mounts. Decisions become reactive rather than strategic. Leaders push their teams harder, often at the expense of trust and morale. Companies prioritize cutting costs over creating value. Employees become disengaged, feeling like mere cogs in a machine designed to hit arbitrary targets. And when things inevitably shift, when the market changes, when competition intensifies, when uncertainty rises, finite players struggle, they scramble. They try to play defense against forces they can't control. On the other hand, infinite players see the world differently. They don't measure success by immediate wins or external validation. Instead, they focus on building something that lasts. Their goal is not to defeat others, but to outdo themselves, to constantly evolve, innovate, and push the boundaries of what's possible. They are less concerned with being the best and more focused on becoming better. In organizations led by infinite-minded leaders, the culture is different. There's a sense of purpose that extends beyond profits. Employees feel a sense of belonging and contribution. Decisions are made not just for the next quarter, but for the next decade. Risks are taken with an eye on the long-term impact, not just short-term rewards. An infinite mindset requires patience. It demands resilience. It forces us to think beyond immediate gratification and embrace the discomfort of growth. Because in an infinite game, the goal is not to reach an endpoint. It's to create something that continues, something that inspires, something that stands the test of time. Change is inevitable. It is the one constant in a world that never stops evolving. Yet, despite knowing this, many people, leaders, and organizations resist it. They cling to what is familiar, to what has worked in the past, to what feels safe. But the problem is, what worked yesterday won't necessarily work tomorrow. The landscape is always shifting. Industries transform, technology advances, consumer behaviors evolve, and unexpected disruptions arise. Think about the companies that once dominated their industries but no longer exist. Blockbuster had the opportunity to adapt when streaming technology emerged, but they didn't. They saw change as a threat rather than an opportunity. Kodak, once a giant in photography, ignored the digital revolution because they were too invested in their existing model. The same pattern repeats in leadership, in careers, and even our personal lives. Those who resist change eventually fall behind, while those who embrace it find new ways to thrive. Resisting change is often rooted in fear, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of losing control. It's natural to want to hold on to certainty, to stick with what feels comfortable, to maintain the systems and structures that have worked before. But comfort can be deceptive. What feels secure today can quickly become obsolete tomorrow. The longer we resist change, the harder it becomes to catch up when it finally forces itself upon us. On the other hand, those with an infinite mindset understand that change is not something to fear, to something to prepare for, to welcome, and to use as fuel for growth. They see disruption not as a roadblock, but as a doorway to reinvention. They remain curious, adaptable, and open to new possibilities. They don't just react to change, they anticipate it, study it, and position themselves ahead of it. Organizations that embrace change foster a culture of innovation. They encourage their teams to question the status quo, to experiment with new ideas, to challenge old assumptions. They don't punish failure, they see it as part of the learning process. In these environments, people feel empowered to take risks, knowing that adaptability is more valuable than rigid expertise. Adapting to change requires humility. The humility to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, that our way of doing things may no longer be the best way, that there is always something new to learn. It requires resilience, the ability to navigate uncertainty, to pivot when necessary, to stay grounded in purpose, even when the path forward isn't entirely clear. It requires a mindset shift from seeing change as something that happens to us to seeing it as something we can actively engage with and shape to our advantage. The world does not slow down for those who are unwilling to evolve. It does not wait for us to be ready. Change is constant, and the question is not whether it will happen, but whether we will rise to meet it or be left behind by those who do. Every great movement, every enduring organization, and every visionary leader is driven by something greater than profit, recognition, or personal gain. They are fueled by a just cause, a reason for existing that extends beyond themselves, something so compelling that it inspires people to sacrifice, innovate, and persist, even in the face of uncertainty. A just cause is not a mission statement. It is not a set of corporate values framed on a wall. It is a deeply embedded belief that acts as a guiding force, shaping decisions, behaviors, and strategies over the long term. It is the foundation of an infinite mindset. When organizations and leaders operate without a just cause, everything becomes transactional. The focus shifts to short-term wins, hitting quarterly targets, outpacing competitors, and maximizing immediate results. Employees become disengaged, seeing their work as just a job rather than a meaningful contribution. Customers lose trust as they sense a company prioritizing profits over people. The culture suffers as teams operate with a survival mentality rather than a growth mentality. But when a leader stands for something bigger than themselves, something that improves lives, strengthens communities, or advances a greater good, people rally behind them. A just cause inspires loyalty, not because of salary, perks, or incentives, but because people want to be part of something meaningful. They want to belong to a movement that reflects their values and aspirations. History is filled with examples of leaders who championed a just cause. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just fight for civil rights. He fought for the belief that all people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. His just cause was not about policy changes alone. It was about a vision of a more just and equal world. That vision outlived him. In business, the most enduring companies operate with this same principle. Apple, at its core, was never just about selling computers. It was about challenging the status quo and empowering individuals through technology. Tesla is not just about cars. It is about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Patagonia doesn't just sell outdoor gear. It is committed to protecting the planet. These companies inspire fierce loyalty because people don't just buy their products, they buy into their cause. Leading with a just cause requires discipline. It is easy to get distracted by short-term pressures, by the temptation of quick wins, by the demands of shareholders and market trends. But infinite-minded leaders make decisions that align with their deeper purpose, even when it costs them in the short run. They invest in their people, not just their profits. They stay true to their values, even when competitors take shortcuts. They are willing to sacrifice, knowing that their legacy will be measured not by how much they earned, but by how much they contributed. A just cause must be inclusive, inviting others to contribute their talents and ideas. It must be resilient, capable of withstanding setbacks and challenges, and it must be service-oriented, focused on advancing a vision that benefits others, not just the leader or organization. People will work harder for a cause than they ever will for a paycheck. They will stay committed when things get tough, not because they have to, but because they believe in what they are building. The true measure of leadership is not how many followers one has, but how many people feel empowered to carry the vision forward long after the leader is gone. Trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, team, and organization. Without trust, even the most talented individuals will struggle to work together, innovation will be stifled, and progress will slow to a crawl. Yet, despite its importance, trust is often treated as an afterthought, something that should simply exist, rather than something that must be deliberately built, nurtured, and protected. In finite-minded environments, trust is often sacrificed for short-term gains. Leaders focus on efficiency, control, and results without realizing that none of those things are sustainable without trust. Employees hesitate to speak up for fear of punishment. Teams become siloed, protecting their own interests rather than working toward a common goal. People spend more energy watching their backs than contributing their best work. And when challenges arise, as they always do, organizations without trust crumble under pressure because individuals are looking out for themselves rather than each other. But in infinite-minded organizations, trust is not just a nice-to-have, it is the glue that holds everything together. It creates an environment where people feel safe, where they are willing to take risks, where they are empowered to innovate, and where they know they are supported even when they make mistakes. Trust is built in small moments, not grand gestures. It's built when a leader listens instead of dismissing concerns. It's built when teammates support each other instead of competing for credit. It's built when people see that their leaders are consistent, not just when things are going well, but especially when things are tough. Trust is not about words, it is about actions. It is about showing up, time and time again, in ways that reinforce a shared commitment to something bigger than any one individual. Collaboration, too, is only possible in environments where trust exists. Many organizations talk about teamwork, but few truly foster collaboration. Collaboration is not about simply working together. It is about creating an environment where diverse perspectives are valued, where people feel comfortable challenging ideas, and where the goal is not to win individual battles, but to collectively find the best solutions. Collaboration, too, is only possible in environments where trust exists. Many organizations talk about teamwork, but few truly foster collaboration. Collaboration is not about simply working together, it is about creating an environment where diverse perspectives are valued, where people feel comfortable challenging ideas, and where the goal is not to win individual battles, but to collectively find the best solutions. In a low-trust environment, collaboration feels like a burden. People withhold information, fearing that sharing their insights might make them vulnerable. They hesitate to ask for help, worried it will make them look incompetent. They avoid difficult conversations, choosing to stay silent rather than risk conflict. Over time, this erodes not just productivity, but morale. But in a high-trust environment, collaboration becomes natural. Ideas flow freely, people feel safe admitting what they don't know, they support each other, knowing that success is a shared responsibility, not an individual competition. Problems are solved faster because people bring their strengths together instead of working in isolation. Great leaders understand that trust is not something that can be demanded, it must be earned. It is not about authority, It is about reliability, consistency, and integrity. It is about creating a space where people feel seen, heard, and valued. It is about showing vulnerability, admitting when you don't have all the answers, and proving through your actions that you are committed to the well-being of those around you. The most successful teams, organizations, and movements are not those with the most resources, the best strategies, or the smartest people. They are the ones that have built a culture of trust, where collaboration is not forced but natural, where people don't just work together, but genuinely want to see each other succeed. The status quo is comfortable, it's familiar, it's predictable, it's the path of least resistance. It's the way things have always been done. But if history has taught us anything, it's that progress is never made by those who simply accept the way things are. It is made by those who dare to question, who challenge conventions, who refuse to settle for good enough when they see the potential for something greater. Challenging the status quo requires courage, because it is almost always met with resistance. People resist change not because they don't see its value, but because change is uncomfortable. It threatens existing power structures, disrupts routines, and forces people to reconsider long-held beliefs. Organizations resist change because they are built on systems designed to maintain stability, not encourage disruption. The moment someone stands up and says, "There's a better way," they are met with skepticism, criticism, and sometimes even hostility. This is why so few people challenge the norm. It's easier to blend in than to stand out. It's easier to follow orders than to question authority. It's easier to keep quiet than to speak up. But the problem with this mindset is that it creates stagnation. It limits innovation. It holds back progress. The greatest leaders, innovators, and visionaries throughout history were the ones who refused to accept the world as it was. They saw problems and had the courage to ask, why? And more importantly, why not? They faced opposition, they were ridiculed, and they were told their ideas would never work. Yet they persisted. They pushed forward, not because it was easy, but because they believed in something greater than themselves. Think about the people who have changed industries. When Henry Ford introduced the assembly line, the idea of making automobiles affordable to the masses seemed ridiculous. When Steve Jobs and his team envisioned a world where computers were personal, the industry laughed at them. When Elon Musk bet everything on electric vehicles and space travel, the skeptics lined up to predict his failure. But these people saw what others didn't. They weren't just willing to challenge the status quo, they saw it as their responsibility. But challenging the status quo isn't just about innovation or business. It applies to every area of life. It takes courage to challenge outdated policies, to speak up in the face of injustice, to question leaders who put their interests before the people they serve. It takes courage to stand up to peer pressure, to go against cultural norms, to make decisions that others don't understand simply because they feel right. In organizations, challenging the status quo means creating a culture where new ideas are welcomed, not dismissed, where employees feel safe to challenge leadership without fear of retribution, where the best idea wins, not just the idea that comes from the most senior person in the room. The people who thrive in a changing world are not necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the most experienced. They are the ones who have the courage to think differently, to ask hard questions, and to take action even when it's uncomfortable. Because progress is never found in the comfort of the status quo. It is forged in the willingness to challenge it. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, playing for the long game is a rare mindset. We live in a society that rewards quick wins, fast results, and immediate returns. Companies chase quarterly profits. Employees seek rapid promotions. Social media glorifies overnight success stories. The pressure to produce, to achieve, to win, right now is overwhelming. But the truth is, nothing truly meaningful, sustainable, or lasting is built overnight. The most successful leaders, organizations, and individuals understand that real success is not about winning today. It's about building something that will endure for years, even decades to come. They don't measure their progress in days or weeks, but in years, sometimes even lifetimes. They are not distracted by momentary trends or short-lived victories. Instead, they make decisions with the long term in mind, even when it means sacrificing immediate rewards. Playing for the long game requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires the ability to zoom out and see the bigger picture, even when the present feels uncertain or difficult. It means investing in relationships rather than exploiting them for short-term gain. It means focusing on trust and integrity rather than chasing immediate advantages. It means building a reputation that will last beyond a single transaction, a single job, or a single business cycle. Short-term thinking is reactive. It's driven by pressure, by competition, by the fear of missing out. It leads companies to cut corners to boost quarterly earnings. It leads leaders to make decisions that look good on paper but weaken their organizations over time. It leads people to abandon their values, compromise their integrity, and choose what is easy over what is right. But short-term success without a long-term foundation is fragile. It is unsustainable, and eventually it crumbles. Those who play the long game, on the other hand, invest in things that compound over time. They invest in people, they invest in culture, they invest in innovation, even when there is no immediate return. They resist the urge to chase every fleeting opportunity and instead focus on what truly matters. They understand that real progress is not measured in days, but in decades. Companies that play the long game don't just think about the next quarter. They think about the next generation. They prioritize customer loyalty over quick sales. They develop their employees instead of burning them out for short-term productivity. They create products and services that stand the test of time, not just ones that capitalize on temporary market trends. Leaders who play the long game don't just seek power or recognition in the moment. They build legacies. They don't focus on winning arguments. They focus on winning trust. They don't chase personal gain at the expense of others. They create environments where everyone rises together. They make decisions that may not always be popular in the short term, but that will lead to lasting impact in the long run. Individuals who play the long game don't measure success by how fast they climb the ladder. They focus on continuous growth, knowing that mastery takes time. They don't panic when things don't go their way in the short term. They adapt, learn, and keep moving forward. They understand that setbacks are not failures, but stepping stones, and that persistence is far more valuable than immediate success. Playing the long game means resisting the urge to chase shortcuts. It means staying true to a vision even when the rewards are not immediate. It means making sacrifices now for something greater later. It requires faith. Faith in the process, faith in the mission, faith in the idea that what is built with intention and patience will always outlast what is built for speed. The greatest organizations, the most impactful leaders, the most resilient individuals all have one thing in common. They do not play to win today. They play to build something that will last beyond them. They play not just for this moment, but for the future. The world is constantly shifting, evolving, and presenting new challenges. Those who cling to short-term thinking, who resist change, who play only to win the game in front of them, will inevitably find themselves struggling to keep up. But those who embrace an infinite mindset, who lead with purpose, build trust, challenge the status quo, and play for the long game, will not only survive, but thrive in an ever-changing. The difference between those who endure and those who fade away is not intelligence, resources, or talent. It is mindset. It is the willingness to think beyond the immediate, to invest in people over profits, to sacrifice short-term wins for long-term impact. It is the courage to ask, what kind of legacy do I want to leave, rather than how can I get ahead right now? True success is not measured in moments. It is measured in movements. It is not about reaching a final destination. It is about continuously advancing a cause, about leaving things better than we found them, about ensuring that the work we do today will continue to create value for generations to come. The world does not belong to those who seek to dominate it for a fleeting moment. It belongs to those who see beyond themselves, who embrace the unknown, who understand that the journey is never truly finished. It belongs to those who think, act, and lead with an infinite mindset.